Welcome to the Newt to Newt tutorial video. Please note that closed captions are available.
隐藏式字幕以普通话提供.
한국어 자막 안내입니다.
Thank you for choosing Newt, the compact IP, SDI, and HDMI signal converter by Ross Video. This tutorial will cover the configuration of two Newts to demonstrate video and audio being sent over Ethernet with seamless protection switching using the SMPTE ST2110 group of protocols. We will break this tutorial down into three main stages. First, we will use a simple internal video generator and one of the Newts as the video source. In the second stage, an external SDI source will replace the video source. Finally, in the third stage, the external SDI source will be synchronized to the system frame rate and will be used as a video and audio source. One Newt will be in the 2-in 2-out SDI IP converter mode and act as the sender as well as the PTP grandmaster, and the other will be in the HDMI 2.0 gateway mode and act as the receiver. For configuring the Newt to Newt setup using one of the Newts as your data generator, you will use two Newts with their power cables, one standard BNC cable, four SFP optical modules with two duplex fiber patch cables, an HDMI cable connected to a standard monitor, and a Windows or Mac computer with an RJ45 Ethernet port and cable for configuration. To start, we will configure the first Newt. For more detail on how to set up your computer and the dashboard software with your Newt, please refer to the first Newt tutorial video, Connecting Your Newt, which can be found on the Ross Video website at www.rossvideo.com/Newt. At this point, you need to have Dashboard installed on your computer and will need your computer's network settings adjusted to use your RJ45 Ethernet port configured with a static/manual IP address on the subnet 192.168.0.1, subnet mask 255.255.255.0, and a router/default gateway of 192.168.0.2. Plug in both Newts using the power cables. Open Dashboard and connect the RJ45 Ethernet cable from your computer to the control port of one of the Newts. We will call this Newt Newt1. This Newt will need to be licensed for the 2-in 2-out SDI IP converter operational mode. The other one will need to be licensed for the HDMI 2.0 gateway mode. Both of your Newts will likely already have both licenses, so this setup won't be an issue. But if not, please refer to the video using the Newt Setup Wizard for more information on configuring licenses on your Newt, which can be found on the Ross Video website. In Dashboard, your Newt will appear in the area at the top left. Click on your Newt and go to the Initial Setup tab. Here you can give your Newt a name. It is important to name your two Newts differently from each other in order to more easily tell them apart. In this tutorial, this Newt will be named Newt1. Apply and reboot to change the name. Next, you must change the IP address to your designated IP address to set up the control port. Make sure the mode is set to static and not DHCP. It is important that the two Newts control ports have the same subnet as your computer running Dashboard, but that their IP addresses are different so that they are distinguishable from each other and different from the computer running Dashboard. We will use 192.168.0.101. Leave the subnet mask as 255.255.255.0 and gateway as blank, then apply and reboot for the changes to take effect. Now you will set up the IP addresses for your net ports. Again, make sure the mode is set to static and not DHCP. Like with the Newt's control ports, the net ports on both Newts should have the same subnet and unique IP addresses to each other. However, this subnet must also be different from that of the control ports. Here, we will use 192.168.1.1 for the first net port. Use the same subnet mask as above, 255.255.255.0, and leave the gateway blank as is. Use 192.168.1.2 for the second net port, then apply both and reboot to make the changes. Now you can make your net connections. Install the SFP modules and use one of the optical cables to connect the Net1 ports and the other to connect the Net2 ports. Although you only need one NET cable to achieve a Newt-to-Newt video demonstration, by using two, you will be able to see the Newt's seamless protection switching feature. Enable this feature now on Newt 1 by going to the Advanced tab at the top, then to the Device Setup tab to Transport Options, where you must select the box SIMPT ST20227/Seamless Protection Switching, then hit OK on the pop-up and apply. Now hit the Reboot button to reboot your Newt for the change to take effect. Now return to the Initial Setup tab at the top. You must make sure your Newt is in the 2-in, 2-out SDI IP converter operational mode. If not, you must select the 2-in, 2-out mode, hit apply, and the Newt will reboot itself to change to the selected operational mode. For this tutorial, this Newt is going to be the PTP master. Therefore, you must uncheck the slave-only box, then apply to make this change. We are going to use this Newt as a video source, so we need to turn on its pattern generator. Click on the Advanced tab to get to the PatGen tab. For this demo, we will use SDI3 as the transmitter. Enable SDI3 with the default video mode 1080p 59.94 and apply. Now, take your BNC cable and attach one end to the SDI3 port and the other to the SDI1 port, so the test signal will now be input into SDI1. Now we are going to enable SDI1 as a sender. Go back to the Initial Setup tab. To make this setup simpler, we will check the Allow Random IP box and click OK on the pop-up to make this change. Now enable the SDI1 port and click Apply. Now your Newt is sending data with IP addresses that were randomly configured. This process saves entering in a number of fields manually and is fine in an isolated system like this Newt-to-Newt demo. But note that when connecting to a real network, you should get specific multicast addresses and ports provided by your network administrator and enter these manually into the Advanced Sender tab. Newt 1 is now configured and is sending the test video signal over both net connections. We will now configure Newt 2. Disconnect the Ethernet cable from Newt 1 and plug it into the status control port of your second Newt, which we will call Newt 2. It may take a moment for your second Newt to appear in the area at the top left of Dashboard. When you see your second Newt, click on it. You will notice that Dashboard has created a separate tab for your second Newt, and that you now have two tabs at the very top of the screen, one for each of your Newts. After selecting Newt 2, go to the Initial Setup tab. Here you can name your device so that you know it is the second Newt. In this tutorial, this Newt will be named Newt 2. Apply and reboot for the name change to take effect. If you need to switch back to Newt 1, you will have to reconnect to Newt 1 with the Ethernet cable, then switch over to the Newt 1 tab. To get back to Newt 2, you would do the same thing, except you would use the Newt 2 tab and connect into Newt 2 with the Ethernet cable. Back to setting up Newt 2, you must now change the IP address of Newt 2. Make sure the mode is set to static and not DHCP. You must use the same subnet as Newt 1, 192.168.0, but still making sure the IP addresses are unique so that the Newts are distinguishable from each other and the computer running Dashboard. Here we will use 192.168.0.102. Leave the subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and gateway is blank, then hit apply and reboot for the changes to take effect. Now you will set up the IP addresses for your net ports. Again, make sure the mode is set to static and not DHCP. Use the same subnet as the subnet of the net ports from Newt 1, 192.168.1. Each of the 4 net ports, the 2 from Newt 1 and the 2 from Newt 2, must have a different IP address so that they are distinguishable from each other. Here we will use 192.168.1.3 and 192.168.1.4. Use the same subnet mask as above, 255.255.255.0. Leave the gateway blank as is, then apply and reboot to make the changes. You should now see that the link status of the net cables is OK. Like before, you should now turn on the Newt's Seamless Protection Switching feature. Go to the Advanced tab at the top, then to the Device Setup tab to Transport Options, where you must select the box, then hit OK on the pop-up and apply. Now hit the Reboot button to reboot your Newt for this change to take effect. Now go back to the Initial Setup tab. Make sure that your Newt is in the HDMI mode. If not, change it to be in that mode and reboot as needed. As this Newt will be the slave to the other Newt, you can leave the Slave Only box selected. Plug in the HDMI cable from the HDMI port on Newt 2 to your monitor. Now you will set up a network stream group on Newt 2 to allow you to receive the video stream from Newt 1. First, go to the Network Streams tab at the top. Click the Add Group button at the bottom to add a group and name your group something useful. Now go to the Advertise Network Streams section, and on the Video row, click the down arrow at the side and select the Newt1.media1out.video option. This option is the advertised stream being sent by Newt 1 with its default stream name. Now save your changes with the Save button at the bottom of the tab. Now that you have made your stream group, go to the Connections tab. Select the group that you have just created, which will now be at the bottom of this tab. Newt 2 will now connect to the video stream and send it out the HDMI port so that you see it on your monitor. You may need to adjust your monitor's input port to see the image. You have now successfully configured a Newt to Newt setup. As you should see, a test pattern generated from Newt 1 is being transmitted through the net ports to Newt 2 and then to your monitor. Now, we will use an external source to generate the pattern on your monitor. In this part of the tutorial, I will use a Fabrics SX as my external source. To change the video source, simply unplug the BNC cable from the SDI 3 port of Newt 1 and instead plug it into the SDI out port on your pattern generator. Make sure that the video source is being generated in the same format as that of the Newt, this format being 1080p 59.94. You should now have a working external video source being transmitted through Newt 1 and the net ports to Newt 2 and then to your monitor. As per the seamless protection switching feature, if one of the net cables is unplugged or broken, the pattern will still be transmitted perfectly. Now we will add audio. You must first configure your external video source to also generate synchronized audio. The test signal coming out of SDI 3 can be fed into this Fabrics device and used to synchronize its generator. We can see here that it is generating audio as well as video, and it is synchronized. If you do not have a synchronized audio source, there will be regular clicks in the audio as Newt 2 will play out the audio at a rate based on the PTP clock, but Newt 1 will be sending audio at the rate it receives it from the generator, which will be slightly different. The unsynchronized video stream also has this problem, but Newt 2 will have been crash locking on the stream, occasionally repeating or dropping a frame as needed, which is visually imperceptible at the 60 Hz frame rate. Once you are certain that your source is generating audio, reconnect your computer to Newt 1. Go to the Advanced tab and then to the Senders tab. Here you will disable the SDI 1 port box and hit Apply. Now reconnect the SDI 1 port and hit Apply. The Newt should now see the audio being generated by your source and enable the audio streams. If you want to check if the audio ports are enabled, click on the button at the right of the SDI 1 port with the 3 dots to reveal the SDI 1 stream details and view your audio setup. Now you must connect back to Newt 2 and go to the Network Streams tab. Select the group that you previously created, which will be shown in the space on the left. Now go to Audio 1 to 8 under Advertise Network Streams. Click on the down arrow at the side on the right and select Newt 1 Media Out Audio 1. This option is the advertised stream being sent by Newt 1 with its default stream name. Now save your changes with the Save button at the bottom of the tab. Now go to the Connections tab. Disconnect and reconnect your stream group with the buttons at the bottom of the tab. You should now have a working audio source being transmitted through Newt 1 and the net ports to Newt 2 and then out of your monitor. This concludes our Newt to Newt tutorial video. You should now have a working Newt to Newt demo. If you have any problems or questions that were not covered here, please contact Ross Tech Support. Thank you for watching and for choosing Ross Video.